Hi everybody, and welcome back to Lost Genre Reddit Stories. This post is from the subreddit Relationships and it's by user Deleted. My 30 female father-in-law wants to help us moving. My dear husband has a strained relationship with his father, but tries to be civil once a year and do his son duties, pretending the superficial talks they have once every month over the phone are normal and they have an okay-ish relationship. Their talks never pass the, "Hi, how are you? Oh, you went on vacation? Uh-huh, okay, bye," kinda level. We visited father-in-law and his new wife once in a blue moon in the past years and decided to start our own holiday tradition this year. This means not visiting father-in-law and his wife's house several states away because it is draining every single time. I don't like father-in-law for various reasons. Him being a crappy, emotionally abusive father to dear husband when dear husband was a child, for example, or him not paying child support to dear husband's mother who divorced him, or him being the most stingy person I have ever met in my life. I stopped talking to him when we moved into our current home 2 years ago after he invited himself over to help. My dear husband thought it would be a good opportunity for father-in-law and him and me to bond. Long story short, it was a disaster. Father-in-law smoked in our new apartment when we were busy cleaning up the old place, and we returned to our new home filled with cigarette stench and paint spilled all over the floors, which we had to scratch and rub away over months afterward. I had explicitly told him not to smoke in our new apartment. We are both non-smokers and we absolutely hate the stale smell. We came back to a disgusting plate he deliberately took, filled with about 40 to 50 cigarette butts soaked in water on the windowsill. He didn't even put his litter in the trash. He did several other things that made me stop talking to him during his 3-day stay. One of them was him demanding to stay the first night dear husband and I were done with moving into our first new home. It was the first home dear husband and I were living together in, and he made us search through all our still unboxed moving boxes to find him a mattress, bedding, pillows, blankets, etc. All this after he had stayed at a hotel far from our apartment, despite us asking to take a room nearby. Dear husband had to drive father-in-law to and from places while moving. Father-in-law is quite wealthy, so it was weird he wanted to stay the first night with us and spoil the joy. It was extremely stressing me out and also making dear husband angry, and it took the joy of our first night in our first apartment away from dear husband and me. No privacy since it was a tiny place too. Dear husband asked me not to blow up, was swallowing his anger because we see his father only once a year and the deal was that father-in-law would not help us move ever again. Wrong. We are going to sign up for a new place in the upcoming days and also move in quite quickly. We visited dear husband's hometown and I met up with dear husband's siblings and mother, etc. And we didn't tell father-in-law and his wife that I was in town. I couldn't be bothered by seeing them, which dear husband understood. Dear husband mentioned we are moving again to father-in-law and his wife, and father-in-law invited himself over again. We have 2 weeks only to sign the new housing contract, pack up our stuff and figure out how we want to decorate the new home, etc. I was excited to have this experience with dear husband sooner than anticipated, but now this. Dear husband has a history of enabling father-in-law and not being able to say no to anything. Dear husband has never told father-in-law off or called him out on his rude behavior. I am livid that father-in-law wants to force himself again into our lives after dear husband and I had agreed that father-in-law would never help us with moving again because he had behaved utterly disrespectfully and has stressed both of us out to the max. Dear husband says he cannot possibly tell his father to stay away, but I am not willing to contribute to enabling father-in-law again. I think 2 weeks of organizing a huge move will be stressful enough, as we hadn't planned it. This means a lot of coordination while working 15 hours a day. We don't need father-in-law around for anything, and I certainly don't want that chain smoker anywhere near the new apartment. I want to enjoy this move and enjoy the new apartment with dear husband and slay the tasks and just manage all on our own. I am terrified to even think that there will be a chain smoker in the brand new apartment. I don't want him to smoke on the new balcony. I don't want his disrespectful attitude around me when I will be stressed. I don't want to smell cigarette smoke in the new apartment. I don't want to clean up after father-in-law's cigarette litter. I certainly don't want my Zen experience and bonding opportunity with dear husband over this next step again disrupted by father-in-law. Since father-in-law's and dear husband's relationship is strained, father-in-law offered to buy us a new kitchen to have a reason to visit or invade our private space again. I told dear husband that we can buy a kitchen ourselves, but dear husband doesn't want to offend his father by declining the offer. We can afford a nice new living now. Dear husband would only accept it to make his father happy. He is like a small boy who wants his dad to love him, and I think their relationship will never be normal because dear husband never went to work on his childhood trauma or even talked openly with his father. I would tell father-in-law personally that I need space and that he can visit when we are settled, but I think it ought to be dear husband's job to tell him off. Dear husband doesn't want me to tell his father off, and he won't do it either at this point. I am fuming and disappointed, and I simply don't want father-in-law around when I will be stressed, and I want to enjoy all the fun and stress just with dear husband and our friends. Father-in-law doesn't need to be around when I plan out furniture arrangements with dear husband or pack and unpack underwear, etc., just to give a graphic example. The last time he helped us move, I had to listen to his crappy comments because I had, for example, bookshelves filled with scientific books because I am an academic working in academics. I had to listen to his, "The only reason you have so many books is that you are greedy," in our new apartment, where he invited himself over. I tried to be the bigger person last time because dear husband asked me to. But I am currently in no contact with father-in-law, and I really don't want him around on our moving day. Am I selfish? Maybe. But dear husband and I didn't have much financial security the past 2 years, and this is the first brand new home we are moving into. I feel I have the right to tell father-in-law that I want and need my moment in this new home alone with dear husband. Father-in-law didn't even ask if I was okay with it, and dear husband already told him he can come. I don't want to deal with father-in-law, I don't want him buying our kitchen, and I certainly don't want him to spoil the new home experience I will have with dear husband again. Dear husband is non-confrontational and has enabled his father's behavior for 30 years. I don't want this, but dear husband is angry that I won't budge and let his father have his way, so dear husband can be the good son. I am so disappointed by dear husband that he wants to be the nice son instead of a nice husband. I think dear husband thinks I am the naggy wife who restricts family members to visit us, being mean. Dear husband comes from a very dysfunctional family, and I understand he is afraid that our relationship will turn toxic like that of his parents, grandparents, and siblings. And I have a hard time making him understand that he will continue to have a crappy relationship with his family members who are full of drama when he doesn't start to set boundaries. Well, OP, I believe you are absolutely right about everything, particularly the part where it is your husband the one that needs to set the boundaries with his dad. Now, even though I don't agree with your husband's behavior towards his dad, I understand that he craves the love and attention from his dad, and that's why he always bends to his will. However, in my opinion, he should put you before his dad, something he isn't doing and that I do think that he needs to work on. Now, from what you tell us in the post, I absolutely understand why you dislike your father-in-law so much, and I find it absolutely valid. The only thing that I didn't read in your post is that you've actually told your husband that this new experience of moving into this new place is something that you want to experience with him alone. Now, I'm only inferring this from your post, but I get the impression that your husband just sees you disliking his father a lot and that you don't want him in the house. And that's why you're angry, because he said yes to his dad, and not because his dad would be intruding in a bonding experience between the two of you. So this is where I think you need to sit down with your husband and communicate, but not about ranting against your father-in-law, but actually telling him that this is about the two of you as a couple. And also in this conversation, you can touch the topic of maybe going to therapy for him to overcome this absolute needing of approval that he has from his dad, and that would benefit your relationship. And what do you guys think? Let me know in the comments section, and now let's move on to the community comments to see what they said. Reptilesny says, your wishes matter. It's just as much your home as it is your husband's, so why is his decision the final one? Tell your husband that you're going to speak to your father-in-law yourself and then do it. Your husband sounds like he's picked up a few things about disrespecting women from his dad. And Dopey responds, dear husband is so different from his father, thank God. I know my wishes matter, but I am also aware of the inability of dear husband to confront his father. 30 years is a long time to get habits infested. I need to be gentle but also firm. It's really hard sometimes. Redditor783 says, moving is already difficult and stressful enough. It is not selfish to not want your father-in-law to add to that stress. As far as not telling him off, I understand why dear husband doesn't want to, but we don't live in a perfect world and sometimes we need to do things that we don't want to do. Stand your ground and tell dear husband in no uncertain terms that if he doesn't tell your father-in-law that he's not allowed to just invite himself over and he is not to come help you move, then you are going to. It may be unpleasant, but one way or another it needs to be done. And Opie responds, dear husband says he has to put up with my rather difficult mother too, but my mother does not force herself onto our private lives like his father. I wouldn't mind anybody else coming and helping, but since the last time his father was helping turned into us grinding teeth, I don't want it. I was looking forward to the positive stress of moving with dear husband within a short time, and now this. We already argued twice and are heading back home after visiting his family. We have to sign the contract on Monday. Unhappy Medium says, the problem isn't your father-in-law, it's your husband. As long as he refuses to stand up to him and take your side, you'll never be rid of your father-in-law. And OP responds, I don't mind his father visiting us on any other occasion, but he never does. Father-in-law is not aware that he might be disturbing intimate moments when he demands to sleep at our new place the first night we move in. Dear husband thinks it would open a can of worms if we start telling father-in-law why he should or should not do certain things. I know it takes dear husband a lot of energy to just maintain a civil relationship with his father, and dear husband only wants some love and acknowledgement, to be honest. I don't need to get rid of father-in-law, but I would appreciate it if we could openly tell him what is okay and what is not, without father-in-law and dear husband going into a nuclear fight. Dear husband comes from a dysfunctional family, so I understand he wants as much peace as possible. Even if dear husband has to swallow his anger and disappointment and cannot say no. I know dear husband and I are a team, but I also know it will take more time for dear husband to stand up and say no to his father. So this brings us back to the question, what to do in 2 weeks? Opie's edit. Wow, thank you so much. I was feeling so alone when I wrote this, and I am moved that so many Redditors are interested in providing advice and help. So many good suggestions. I read all the comments and have to let it sink in for a while. We still have a day left till Monday to go over the contract, etc. I can't use storage space since I am writing on a scientific project and need my books, etc. Right now, thus my stress. The moving date is really not convenient for me, sad face. So that is no option, unfortunately. As I always think, I am a non-perfect person. I feel I have to be more understanding when my husband insists that I just accept that his father will be involved in dear husband's life. I feel stupid that dear husband acknowledges my feelings for disliking his father, but still wants me to bite my tongue and not complicate things. I constantly get the feeling my emotions are not validated. Thank you for the eye-openers, suggestions, ideas, and constructive comments. I need to find a way to set boundaries myself. I feel like this would benefit the relationship in the long run. I will sleep over this and get back to you. Internet strangers, you are truly awesome. Thank you for giving me the feeling my emotions are legitimate and nudging me in the right direction. Well, it seems like OP heard what the community was saying. I still personally believe that communication would be the best approach and to focus on the relationship between the both of them and not the, let's say, anti-relationship with the father-in-law. Basically applying Aesop's fable that to get a man to take off his coat, you don't blow it off, you make them feel warm. Anyways, let's move on to the update to see how this story ends. Dear husband and I had several smaller arguments over this issue before the moving days. I stood my ground, stating all the reasons why father-in-law was not welcomed to help. I stated the following reasons. He had invited himself out on the last moving day without even asking me, dear husband's partner. He didn't have a close relationship with dear husband, so father-in-law getting in a car to help us with moving was not a pleasant surprise. When shopping for furniture, he did not chip in a single penny and complained for a straight 7 hours that I was choosing $3 a piece more expensive bookshelves instead of the very cheapest bookshelves. I stopped talking to him in the furniture shop during the last hours because dear husband had asked me to, and I would not do that again. He bragged about painting the new apartment himself instead of us hiring a professional painter. To save money, father-in-law is the stingiest person we know of, and he completely ruined the whole floor with paint splatters everywhere. We had to scrape it off the floor with a special paint stripper or scratch it off. It was a tedious job because we only rented the place and would have to pay for all damage like this. We wanted to reuse the expensive moving boxes, but he sat on one and refused to stand up when I asked him politely and damaged the box. Only $4 a piece, but still our property. He chain smoked in our brand new apartment, stenching the new place. He decided to spend the first night of us being in the apartment with us, again without asking me or dear husband, simply saying, I can't stay at the hotel I booked for another night, and he ruined our first night in our first apartment together because we had to look through all the stuffed boxes to find him some extra bedding. I also tried to reason that moving into our new apartment now was a rare opportunity for first-time occupancy of an apartment, that I wanted to enjoy furniture shopping with him alone, that we did not have that extra spare room for father-in-law to stay, and since we were hiring a professional company, his retired father would not be able to help at all. He cannot carry heavy things. I refused to budge and to let father-in-law intrude our twosome place again and add stress to exhausting days. Dear husband was not happy, but he told me the only reason he was unhappy was that he felt like I forbade his father to come. Dear husband had already told father-in-law that father-in-law could not help us in any way this time, as we were hiring a professional company, and that he could visit another time. Apparently, father-in-law sulked. Father-in-law had previously stated he was going to pay for our kitchen and was already sending us links to the cheapest on the market, but we had ignored his suggestions and told him we found a kitchen that suited us better. Father-in-law sent us barely enough to cover half of the kitchen after we told him he could visit us after the move, so yeah, doesn't make me like him more. For Christmas, he apparently sent dear husband an email with season's greetings to dear husband's email, and he failed to write my name correctly. F him. After so many years, you expect him to know your name. Imagine writing Hannah instead of Anna. Dear husband just mentioned it and did not show me the email because you know my father, he doesn't write any substantial stuff. You don't need to read this. So yeah, dear husband told father-in-law off and said that father-in-law did not help us move and we had plenty of time to go shopping for furniture ourselves and design the apartment to our liking. We don't have a guest room anymore, so father-in-law will not be able to crash at our place again. He is wealthy and can afford the best hotels anyway. Besides, father-in-law paid us a visit only once before the last surprise visit to help, so it is highly unlikely he will visit us sometime soon. Thanks for all your help. Dear husband and I still need to work on setting boundaries, but concerning moving, we agreed that father-in-law will never again help us. Well, OP, in my opinion, this is a half-happy update. The happy part is that you got what you wanted. Your father-in-law did not intrude in your time with your husband. The unhappy part, I'd say, is that your husband is not happy because he felt like you forbade his father to come. And I believe that's not good because that can foster resentment. But regardless of what I think, I do hope that you guys can find better ways to communicate in the future. Take care, OP, and thank you for sharing. Now, let's finish this video off with a mood booster. This post is from the subreddit Malicious Compliance, and it's by user Think Stop Say, no value in your work. So, I have a friend, let's call him Bill. Bill was an analyst for a small firm. He was always punctual and friendly and has been there 15 years. Bill is a quiet but friendly soul. His work is outstanding and his data is both useful for gaining income for customers and the way they work as a firm. Bill is the type that quietly approaches the relevant managers, demonstrates the data, and quietly goes on his way. His data is good too, and managers use it regularly. The thing is that Bill doesn't get any credit for it. Bill doesn't mind though, as he is happy in his work. And then the firm decides it needs to be efficient and calls in a consultancy firm. They reviewed all the staff and the work they do. Bill is called into a meeting and told he will be let go. They tell him the changes will occur in a month and he will stay on until then. When he queries why he is being let go, he is told his work is worthless to the firm. He is plainly told if he didn't do it anymore, no one will know. The exit package is generous and he still has 4 weeks worth of salary. Bill quietly goes on his way and hatches a plan. Bill decided as his work is worthless, he will not continue to do work for them. He spends 4 weeks not doing worthless work, but researching the opposing firm. He applied and lands a job with the opposition and starts a week after leaving the firm. Bill is at his new job when he receives a phone call from his previous firm asking where this month's data is. He tells them that 1, he got made redundant and most of the staff didn't know, and 2, as his work was labeled worthless, he didn't do any work in the last month. Bill's new company increases revenue with Bill's help, and he found out from a former colleague that revenue went down 2.1 billion at his old firm the year after he left. Well, all they did was just get rid of some worthless worker, right? Good on Bill. Thank you for sharing, OP. And it's that time that we've reached the end of the video. I hope you enjoyed today's stories. I really did enjoy reading them to you. So if you did, then don't be shy and go ahead and give the video a like. And don't forget to subscribe or even share this video with people that you might think will enjoy my storytelling. Also, if you have the time, go down to the video description and check out all the links I have for you, from our Discord community to my channel merch. And finally, I'd like to say thank you for watching. It really means a lot to me that you enjoy my videos. And having said all that, I'll see you guys in the next video.